So I'm going to read from the 12 Tribes of Hattie. I'm going to read from a story called Franklin. There are a few things that you need to know because it's a bit long and I don't want to be reading forever and ever and boring the pants off people. So I'm going to start sort of in the middle and I'm going to skip around just a little bit. So the chapter called Franklin takes the title character's name is Franklin. He's a very, very young man. He is estranged from his wife, and he is in an unnamed country where there's a war going on in the 60s. Who knows which one it could be? But in any case, that's where he is, and he's with a squad, and they're kind of laying mines in the beach. And while he does this, he's kind of thinking about his wife, whose name is Sissy, back home, and that the sort of dissolution of that relationship. The other thing that you need to know, you'll encounter a couple of his friends whose names are Mills and Pinky, and you also need to know that Franklin is a bit of a mess. As I said, he's a pretty young man, but he's a young man who kind of is developing a kind of a nasty drinking problem and maybe already had a gambling problem. Anyway, you know things happen when you're young. So hey, okay. So without further ado, this is Franklin. What the fuck? That's Mills talking. We're shouting at each other. The blood is pounding in my temples and my palms are slick. What the fuck? He yells again. There's something out there, man, I say, pointing to the dark thing just offshore. I should add also that he's really drunk, basically. And he's been kind of hallucinating, and he thinks that there's something sort of bobbing in the water just offshore, and he's decided that though his squad is loading mines into the beach, he's going to shoot at it, which is, not the best idea. Anyway, there's something out there, man, I say, pointing to the dark thing just offshore. That's a goddamn rock, Shep, and you ain't even aimed all your shots at the water. You just discharged half a round in a beach full of live mines. What the fuck? You don't see that? I've been watching it for hours. I raise my rifle again, staggering a little with the effort. Mills is mad now. Put that down! Put it down! I lay the rifle on the sand, and Mills is up in my face, poking his finger into my chest and shouting. I shove him away. The force of it makes me fall backward onto the sand. He's on me, all swinging fists and flying spittle. He's half drunk himself and only manages to land one on my shoulder before Pinky comes and breaks it up. He pulls me to my feet, says maybe I should take a break. Maybe all three of us should take a break. The other guys in the squad have stopped digging. It's dark, but I swear one of them is looking at me and shaking his head. I don't need a break. I'm protecting you motherfuckers. There's some kind of sub out there. What the hell else was I supposed to do? And you figured you could shoot the sub, Pinky says. Right there, 200 feet out, to the left. That ain't nothing. It's a rock. Look close, I say. Look like a rock I'm looking close at, Pinky says. Mills is standing a few feet away from us, but I can tell he still wants to take a swing at me. I see it. It's a fucking rock, he says. You got to calm down. Pinky leads me over to a stand of mangroves, and we sit on the sand. It takes me a few minutes to realize that he's taken my rifle and propped it against the roots of the trees. I think I might throw up. It was a sub, I say, though now I'm not so sure. Pinky lights a joint and hands it to me. All right, man, okay. If it was a sub, don't you think they'd have come out by now? We've been here all night. Pinky's laughing. You's gonna sink a sub with a rifle, huh? We sit and pass the joint for a few minutes. My nerves settle. I don't know if it's the joint or Pinky. It's true. If they were going to get us, they would have done so by now. He calls over to Mills. This nigga really thinks he saw a goddamn sub. Mills doesn't answer. Come on, man. We ain't blown up. Come on and help me laugh at this fool. Mills walks over and sits. It's like that with us. One minute you're angry enough to draw blood, and the next you're sharing a joint. I want another beer, but I don't think they'll give me one. Pinky has a tattoo on his arm that says Black Patty. He says she was the one that got away. I need a good laugh, so I say, tell us about Patty. Pinky has 1,000 Black Patty stories. No, man, not now, Pinky says. Come on, Mills wants to hear it, I say. Mills cracks a smile. Yeah, he says, let's hear a little Black Patty. What's she do, I ask. What's she give you, Mills adds. Pinky's grinning now. He says, that bitch gave me the mess around. I used to go around her house, made a date first and everything. Then I would show up, and her mama would answer the door and tell me Patty wasn't there. So I say, respectfully, ma'am, where'd she go? And that big woman would rear up and say, I believe Patricia had another engagement. So fa-la-la, that damn lady. She had her nose so high in the air she could smell the birds farting. And she thought she was Leontine Price. And then she slammed the door in my face. Then I'd go to a party, and damned if Black Patty wasn't there with some other cat. Mills pulls a beer out of his back pocket. We pass it between the three of us. Now, y'all know Patty was knock-kneed. She was not a nice-looking woman. But she could whine. I'm telling you, she could put it on you. She had me all messed up. And she was shaped like a chicken, right? Mills said, with little bit chicken legs. Uh-huh. And her mom ain't know nothing about how she was, Pinky says. I remember this one time she had me come over in the afternoon. Her mama was asleep in an armchair with the Ladies' Home Journal in her lap. And how about she was snoring with her head hanging down, reading about how to make a lemon meringue pie, and she's making noises like a truck. So me and Patty go up to her room and we get it going. I don't know how long we was at it, but I had a good start. Patty liked to pretend she was shy, you know. So you had to sweet talk her. You had to say, you sure are a pretty girl, and call her sugar and spice and all that stuff. She did have a pretty smile, I'll say that about her. And she smelled like heaven, like silk and rich ladies. And she had a little dresser covered with perfume her mama had bought so Patty could get the Negro doctor that lived around the corner. So anyway, we going good when Leontine starts hollering in her fa-la-la voice, Patricia, Patricia, Dr. Nelson has come calling. Isn't that delightful? Aw, shit, Mills says. And don't you know, Patty pushed me off her. I tried to hold on to her because we was in the middle of something, you know. So she's there with her bra undone and starts wailing on me. I mean, she's smacking me all in my head and neck like I was a wayward child. And then she's kind of hissing at me under her breath. Dr. Nelson is here. Get up, you idiot. We got to finish this later. She pushed me right down to the floor, and I'm laying there stunned. I'm telling you, Patty had strength like she'd been working in the fields. I saw stars. And there's Patty looking at herself in the mirror and spraying herself with damn near every perfume on that vanity. And I'm on the floor tangled up in my pants. Then she looks at me and she says, oh, you gonna get out of here. And she starts smacking me again. That bitch smacked me all the way to the bathroom and out the window. I'm falling out the window, and last thing I hear is Patty's mama, Patricia, don't let's keep Dr. Nelson waiting. I'm half naked, so I get behind a bush, and damned if Patty don't come outside with a lemonade on a silver tray. I'm behind a bush with grass up my ass, and Patty's having a beverage on the porch. Mills is laughing and slapping his thigh. And how long this went on, he says. A year, a whole year, climbing out windows and getting stood up. I had a broken heart. Mills guffaws. I did, man. I think Patty worked some roots on me. I was walking around town all jacked up. I went to the hardware store and cried all over the wrenches. Pinky's laughing at himself now. Some women get in your soul, I say. Mills and Pinky look at me. It ain't all that deep, man. Damn. Then Mills says, and what happened after a year? But then our commander walks over. Y'all want a fan and some drinks with umbrellas? Get the fuck up so we can finish and get out of here. He spots the beer Pinky tries to hide behind his back. And throw that away, he says. He probably has one in his own pocket. I pick up my rifle and walk carefully back to my post. It's true. That black thing isn't big enough to be a sub. Could be a mine, though. Or could be whatever that fisherman heaved over the side of his boat. Could be a diver's back if he were dressed in black and his head and legs were submerged. But why would he float like that? That doesn't make sense. Pinky and Mills said it was a rock, so all right, it's a rock. The pot has stopped working. I'm so tired I can't feel my legs, but the fear is vibrating in me like an engine. I walk to the edge of the sea and throw up in the water. Maybe it'll wash out to that floating diver. Heh, that'd be a nasty surprise for him. My squad, we're skipping forward a little bit. My squad puts the last mines in the ground. They level off the little mounds of sand where the mines are buried. If the enemy is coming, they'll come now. We'll be out of here in 20 minutes. I realize that I have spent the last 24 hours thinking I was going to die. They have only 20 minutes left to kill me. I trot up and down the beach with my rifle sights on the dark thing out there. 20 minutes ticks down to 15. My legs are shaking and my chest is tight, but I keep moving. I want to see my daughter. I want to explain to Sissy that I couldn't possibly be the same fool after what I've been through tonight. In my hours on this beach, I have been so close to death that I am almost my own ghost. We've finished packing our gear. I try to get another beer, but Mills refuses me. Pinky sees him and says, "You want him shooting at invisible choppers this time?" He shrugs. "Could have been worse," he says. We walk toward the junk, and all I can hear is the frog song swelling and the hiss of my beer opening. Our junk is black and old and stinks of rot and fish like everything else in this bay. I take my place on the starboard side in the rear, and we push away from the shore. The black hump in the water is just visible through my rifle sights. "I beat you," I say. We clear the shallows, and two of us open a hatch at the back of the ship. A retractable plank is lowered, and two of the hands roll the sea mines down the gangway. They slip with a little splash into the black water. They will detonate when something interrupts their magnetic field. I was told that fish are not big enough to do this, nor a man swimming alone. We head toward the open water. Mills is standing next to me. I whisper, "Cheat death and shame the devil." "You one crazy nigger," he says. "I'm not dead, though," I say. "Nah, not today, anyhow." I don't want to look at that island for one more minute. I stand at the prow and look out toward the sea behind the bay. I'll have to rewrite my letter to my daughter. I practice folding it into different shapes. If I make it pretty, Sissy might not throw it away. Maybe she'll let little Lucille hold it, a paper toy her daddy made her. I fold it into a boat, just flat, with a triangle for a sail. But I don't think little girls like boats, so I change it to a swan. Now we're going to go into a little bit of memory that he has. He, as I said, he and his wife are completely estranged, and this is his memory of the last time he kind of went to see her to see if he could get her back somehow. I went around to Sissy's apartment in the middle of the afternoon. She and this man she'd gotten had a little place on a block in West Philadelphia where neither of them knew anybody. I wore my dress blues. The brass buttons shone in the sun. I felt like the son of a king come to claim his bride. I didn't deserve to feel that way, but the fantasy helped keep my head up. As I climbed the steps to the apartment, I realized that it was remarkable that Sissy hadn't found another man before now. I'll tell her, I thought, that I had come to offer her a divorce. We could go down to the courthouse that same afternoon. I'd free her so she could have an honorable life with a man that she'd found. But then she opened the door, and she was every inch my Sissy, with the mole on her cheek and her iron gaze. "Instead," I said, "I came to get you." She stood on the threshold looking at me and blinking quickly. I thought she might cry, but she wouldn't give me the satisfaction. "We're still married," I said. "What kind of way is this to live?" "I'm living like a woman, Franklin," she answered. "My mother and my sisters won't speak to me, but it's worth it to live like a woman. I don't know when you suddenly got so concerned about my sacrifices." And then we were in a movie with me as the penitent husband and Sissy as the wrong wife. I said my lines and she said hers. I don't know why I didn't just take my hat and go. "I came because I love you," I said. "I believe you think that's true," Sissy said. She never moved from the doorway. Her hands hung at her sides, and she made a fist, then released it again like she did when she was nervous. Little circles of gold, the sunlight reflecting off my brass buttons, played across her face. I looked over her shoulder into the living room. It looked all right. It was cozy. Everything in the room was light and lifting: white curtains, a cream sofa, a pale rug on the floor. I'm a better man after being in the service. I knew better than to say that to her, but I couldn't think of anything else. "I arranged for a truck," I said, "to help you move your things. I can call right now. It'll be here in 10 minutes. "A truck?" Sissy laughed in spite of herself. She knew I didn't have a truck. I don't know what I would have done if she'd called my bluff. "A truck," she said again, and shook her head. She let me into the apartment. I sat on her white couch. She sat opposite me in a straight-back chair with wooden armrests. I should have bought her a chair like that instead of that weird armchair I got. It suited her better. She was not a slouching sort of woman. "I haven't had a drink for weeks," I said. "I can't go with you this time, Franklin." "So you're just going to live like this with this man?" He has real feeling for me. I won't call it love, but he's steady and kind. You know how I feel? I feel like a lady on a rest cure. You know the kind in books that sits in a chaise lounge all day and looks at flowers? That's just what I do. I go to work and come home and tend the house, and I don't think about anything. You wore me out, Franklin. I had come begging to Sissy before, and she beat the hell out of me and left. And I hadn't changed any since then, but I was still so arrogant I thought I could go over there and win her back. I thought all kinds of things I could do. I could rage and drag her out of there with my hands and throw myself on the floor and beg her for mercy. I could tell her again that I was a changed man, but I had done all of that before. I'd played all my cards, and Sissy wouldn't be lied to or cajoled. I caught my reflection in the living room window. I looked like a pile of fool's gold. You had to squint from all the shine coming off me, buttons, shoes, epaulets. I asked myself why I wanted her back so badly. I couldn't answer the question, but I couldn't leave that apartment either. I got up from my place on the couch and stood crying in the middle of the room. I love you, I said. We have to be finished, Franklin. She got up and took my hand. I didn't understand how she could hold my hand like that and tell me no. She stroked my palm with her fingers. I leaned into her because I needed some strength to walk out of that door, and she was the only one I could get it from. We hugged for a long time, and then I kissed her neck and her shoulder, and I kissed her eyelids and the hollow between her collarbones, and we sank down onto the white couch together. After, while she was buttoning her blouse, she'd said she'd walk me out to the corner, and you know, we walked out to that corner holding hands like we did when we were dating, before I messed everything up. You take care of yourself, she said, and turned quickly toward the house before I could reply. That was over a year ago, and I had not heard from Sissy since then, until I got her letter about our little Lucille's birth. Now we're going back to Vietnam. We steer the junk toward the Gulf. It's slow-moving, but we're making distance. The stars and fog fade in the pre-dawn, and the sky brightens. Behind us, the island is a ridged black silhouette, ever receding. A sampan glides along the surface of the water near the shore of the island, probably a fishing boat. They come out at this hour. The occupants, a boy and an old man, look into the water and then at us. The boy is pointing at our junk, at me. I swear he's pointing right at me. The old man pushes the kid's arm down. The sampan is lifted on a low wave, gently, like a ballet dancer lifting his partner, and it is pushed closer to the island. There is a boom. The boat is lifted higher on an upward-moving column of water. The explosion echoes and echoes. It bounces from one island to the next. It knocks in my brain and chest. I am holding my breath, but do not notice until it is quiet again, and I finally inhale deeply, and that makes me cough and sputter. Mills lets out a low, soft whistle, says, "Shit." I get another beer and drink half of it in one gulp. I look into the water for floating body parts. I want to see the boy's head. I ought to be forced to acknowledge what I have done. Most of my missions are at night. I shoot into the darkness and sail away before I have to count bodies. It was the same with Sissy. I was a violence in her life and left before I had to face the damage I had done. With Lucille, there would be still more recklessness, more hurt, more promises I don't keep, more destroying people I love. I make a wager. If I see any evidence of the boy whose life we took, I will never drink again. I set my beer on the deck and wait. I scan the water. A light-colored, unrecognizable something floats toward me. I lean so far over the starboard side, I nearly topple into the water. Behind me, Pinky calls, "Suicide ain't the answer." I hear a round of guffaws. I lean and squint. The floating object appears to be a finger, then a leaf, then a discarded bandage. The current shifts, and the thing is carried away from me. I pick up my beer, finish it off. When we get back to the ship, I'll go to sleep, and then I'll wake up, and I'll have the shakes, and I won't have the willpower to sit on my bunk sweating and throwing up until the liquor's out of my system. I'll take a swig of the whiskey stashed in my footlocker, and the days will go on as they have. And it's not like I don't know I just bet my family on an exploded boy's body parts. I know that. I know what it means about the kind of man I have become, or always was. I can't tell anymore. It is almost a relief to know that the people I love are free of me, that I don't have to lie to myself, that I don't have to pretend that little Lucille would be better off for knowing me. I reach into my pocket and throw my letter for Sissy into the bay. There was a picture in the envelope that I was going to send them. It lands in the water next to the folded paper swan for my little girl. In the photo, I am standing at the dock with my ship behind me. I'm in my dress blues with my white hat pulled low over one eye. On the back of the photo, it says, "For you and little Lucille. Love, Franklin. Saigon, 1969. Thank you.